Hello everybody, I'm Thomas from Fiedler Audio, and this video is part of a series of mixing tips for getting you started with producing in Dolby Atmos in your favorite DAW. We will use an existing stereo mix in Go Atmos in small steps. That way you will learn all you need to know about music production in Dolby Atmos in a digestible way. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can stay up to date with the latest news, tips and tricks. In the last mix tip video, we made the first step by sending our stems to different virtual speakers in our bed or composite and in this way position them in space. Today, we will transition from that speaker or channel-centric approach to a first step in object-based mixing. Again, we will do this without changing the stereo mix at all, and thereby we will be able to A/B compare our existing mix to its Dolby Atmos version with literally one click. This will be possible because both versions of the mix live in one session file. As a starting point, we will use the same stems as in the last mix tip video and pen them step by step to our liking. Okay, so this time let's use Ableton Live. Again, this approach works in any DAW, and we have created demo sessions for all major DAWs which can be downloaded from our homepage. Last time, all our stems were routed to at least one pair of virtual speakers in our bed or composite layout. But since Dolby Atmos is an object-based format and is supposed to be played back on a variety of different systems, ranging from headphones to multi-channel speaker setups, mixing should be done object-based as well. Object-based mixing means that you don't think about the playback format, but rather think of your different audio signals as objects somewhere in the space surrounding you. So, instead of thinking what virtual speaker we will send our tracks to, we will decide where to put them in space and then let the Dolby Atmos playback algorithm render these positions depending on whether we listen to it on headphones or on speakers. Here we have our set of stems again as our stereo mix. As always, first let's put the Dolby Atmos composer onto the master track. When going from a stereo mix to creating a Dolby Atmos version, we have to decide what we want to have in our Atmos mix. Here it is quite simple because we only have ready-made stems, so all stems will end up in Atmos. Since we want to decide where each of these stems will be panned to, let's create one aux channel for each stem. By using aux channels for creating our mix, we can keep the stereo mix untouched. Let's name them accordingly. And let's put a Dolby Atmos Beam plugin on each aux track and set the plugin output to mute like the last time, so that the beams only send to the composer but let nothing go back through to the DAW. Now we just have to connect each stem track to its corresponding aux channel via send. These sends should be post-fader, so that the volume automation of the stereo mix also reaches Atmos. Okay, so now that the routing is properly set up, let's pen each of the stems in the corresponding Dolby Atmos beam. Now we have penned all our stems to some place in space, but all of the panning ends up in the bed or here composite. We can take things one step further by switching some of our tracks to become dynamic objects. Doing that can have many reasons, and explaining all this would be beyond the scope of this mix tip video. But one of the main reasons is that you can adjust how objects are played back when listening to them on headphones in binaural. You can adjust this setting on the input configuration page of the composer. Currently we only see the channels of the composite in orange color. In the column for binaural mode we can adjust how each of the composite channels are played back in binaural, but we leave these settings as they are by default. Let's first convert the electronic drums to dynamic objects. Doing that conversion does not change the panning at all. Both channels of this track are still in the same place where we panned it to. But now two extra channels have been reserved in Atmos for the electronic drums, which now also appear in the list on the Input Configuration tab. Now we can change the binaural settings for these two objects without affecting the rest of the mix. Let's listen to the drums in solo with the current setting. I like the drums to sound more direct without being excluded from binaural rendering, so let's set the drums to near and listen again. Great, now let's switch the piano to dynamic objects as well and listen to it in solo. I would like the piano to be a bit more soft and laid back, so let's switch it to far and listen again. Now let's also switch the vocal FX to objects and listen to them in solo.
You act like you're a savior, but I need a home. But I need a home.
They should also be a bit further away, so let's switch them to far as well.
You act like you're a savior, but I need a home. But I need a home.
Great, the mix is done. Let's listen to it and A/B with the stereo original.
Don't tell me that you tried when all you really did was beg. Don't tell me that you gave it all when you're still in check. And don't cry me a river, I've got my own. You act like you're a savior, but I need a home. But I need a home. Home, in this war of roses, I just play the pawn. And when you think to yourself, who have we become? Who have we become? Who have we become? All I needed was a home.
Since in many DAWs the number of sends are limited, another way of routing the tracks to the aux channels is using the track output instead. One example is Reason. Here the outputs of the tracks are routed to the inputs of so-called mixed channels, which in other DAWs are called aux tracks, and the Beam plugins sit in those mixed channels. The Beam plugin outputs have been set to pass-through instead of mute to maintain the possibility to A/B compare stereo and Atmos with one click. We have created a version of the demo sessions accordingly where possible. There are a few DAWs which allow plugins on a track to be processed after the fader of the same track. This is called a post-fader insert. For example, Cubase, Nuendo, Ardour and Mixbus are among them. On those DAWs you can do the same mix without going through aux tracks at all. You just put the Dolby Atmos beam into such a post-fader insert slot on each of the tracks you want to have in Atmos and set the plugin output to pass through instead of mute. That way, the Beam plugins are transparent when switching the composer to bypass, allowing you to A/B compare the Atmos version with the stereo mix also by just one click.
Don't tell me that you gave it all when you're still in check. And don't cry me a river, I've got my own.
For those DAWs where this is possible, we have created an additional demo session where post-fader inserts are used instead of aux tracks. On those DAWs which do not have post-fader inserts, you can still use the beam in a normal pre-fader insert. If the track where you use the beam in that way has no volume or stereo pan automation, you can just set the right volume and position in beam and that's it. For tracks with volume or pan automation, you would either have to use one of the methods mentioned before or recreate the automation in beam. Although this mix is fairly simple, because we have already pre-mixed stems, the same approach can be used for mixes of any size and complexity. You can send single tracks, group tracks or effect returns in the same way to your Atmos mix. That gives you an immense creative freedom. The panning done in this example is still static, so don't forget, you can automate the position of your tracks and create movement. Also, each of our stems was panned to one position only, but you might want to have more than one instance of a track in space to pan around. In the next video we will give you some tips on why and how to achieve that, and some more creative tricks to feed your imagination. On our homepage we have recently created a knowledge base where you can download the project used in this video for most available DAWs. There's a link in the description. In the knowledge base you will also find all the tutorials for our products as well as session templates. We will continue to expand this knowledge base so that all information can be found easily in one place. Let us know what you think about this mixing approach in the comments below. Also, please let us know if you have a specific question about mixing in Atmos which you would like to see a good explanation video about. And that's it for this video. We hope it's been helpful. Please make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of any updates. Thanks for watching and happy mixing.